Welcome back to the Momentum Sports Podcast. If you're new here, please consider hitting that like button and hitting that subscribe button. Comment down below your thoughts. Derek and I love talking about college sports, especially college football and college basketball. We're excited to get on to this next topic that you came here for. So let's get it. Welcome back, everybody. So last video, we were talking about the conference championships and kind of reaction. And we did, or I guess it was mainly me, I kind of did segue into the playoff itself a little bit more, but we wanted to make a separate episode about the playoff itself after, everything is set in stone. The bracket is here. Let's go through the bracket and let's see if we can make it to the national championship. So, Derek, let's start with the first round here. Let's kind of go game by game. Let's start with the Texas-Clemson game. I'll let you go first. I mean, I already know what you're going to say, but I'll let you go first, and we'll put it on the record,
Well, if you notice, of all the spreads they have out there, Texas is the only team that has a 10-point spread.
It's
Penn
11.
State's like nine, it'll be 11-point spread, 10-point or higher. 11-point
Yeah.
spread. It was 11.5 for a second there. And some people say it's higher or higher than you think. But what people don't understand is Texas defense is going to keep Clemson from scoring. They've been doing that all year besides that one game against Georgia and Vanderbilt, you know, and
Yeah.
those, and I think they've learned from those games to plug those holes that were visible at that time, and they've also been one of the most consistent team in defense of any other team in the country. So I just don't see Clemson, who went against Georgia and did nothing against that defense, who Texas similarly has the same defense. What makes you think Clemson's going to do it now? Yes, it was a it was like in the beginning of the season, but I just
Yeah,
don't
wasn't it
see it.
game one?
Yeah, I just don't see it. I see Texas because you look what they did to Georgia on the offense. Yeah, they didn't score right away. I mean, score when they got down the field, but they were launching like fly out balls and getting these long, huge receiving yards on one play against Georgia's defense. Yeah, and Georgia's defense is different than Clemson's defense, and they did stop Texas in the red zone. It is what it is, but the difference between Clemson and Georgia, Clemson's not going to stop the run like Georgia did. Texas is going to be able to use that run game. And what Texas failed to do against Georgia that probably would have actually done better is put Arch Manning in red zone play. Have him more times in the red zone area and leave Urs to do the deep balls from far away because he seemed to do really well doing that. I think that would change the game because now you got a running dynamic of Weiser, you got a running dynamic of Arch Manning, and Arch Manning is still a good passer. And so I really think that would have been the smarter move. But it is what it is. But I think they'll implement that more against Clemson. I don't think Clemson can stop Arch and Weisner and the deep ball of Urs. So
Mhm.
I just don't see it happening. I think that defense stops Clemson. So yeah,
The more I think about this, the tougher it is for me to pick on this. Texas has not beaten a current top 25 opponent. They have had two shots at the same team and come up short both times. Clemson played Georgia in the very first game of the season. I, I can't base that match, like I cannot compare that matchup to now. I just can't. So um Texas's track record in postseason bowl games, playoff last year, uh Sark has not won a postseason game in a while. It just doesn't seem to be in his favor. I think Dabo is on a mission and he's got 2 weeks to prepare for Texas. And Texas has 2 weeks of hearing how great they are, how, you know, they're the best team in the nation. They're on their way to the national championship. And Clemson is just being battered down, going like, oh, Clemson made it in. This is ridiculous. Da 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 da. I think Clemson's going to come in there furious like they did against SMU, and they're going to be ready. And God, I can't believe I'm doing this. Nothing about that Texas Georgia game made me confident in Texas. They let a backup quarterback come in there and whoop their butt. I'm taking Clemson, man. I may just look ridiculous afterwards on this, but I just, yeah, I'm taking Clemson. I'm gonna do it. Clemson's gonna get the big upset, and you know that there's gonna be upsets, and I think that this one is definitely one that can sneak up on you, and I can see Texas sleeping on these guys and overlooking them, and Clemson can come in there and make them, you know, they can punish them. And if you want to talk about defense, Clemson's got a good defense. I think that they're going to come out, they're going to be ready, and I think that Clemson's defense is definitely good enough to take care of Quinn Ewers. So, but we'll have to see. That's just my take on it.
Is it because you don't want to get married? That's why.
Oh my God.
No.
There,
But
Derek.
his girlfriend said she would marry him if Texas beats a current top 25 team. So I'm just saying. Let those bells
Oh.
ring, baby.
Those bells
Hey,
ring.
hey,
Uh,
hey. We know who don't like this.
oh my God.
And we know it's the right hand. I'm not married,
You
by
had
the
to
way.
slide that in there, didn't you, Derek?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Well, let's move on to the next matchup here. Uh, Tennessee and Ohio State. You can go first again.
Okay. Ohio State got their butt beat by Michigan. Well, they didn't really. No, they didn't get butt beat. They just didn't win off their spread, and it's very concerning. You lose to Michigan, the one game you're paid
At
to
home.
do to beat Michigan. That is the coach Ryan Day. He's getting fired. I'm telling you this right now. If he doesn't win national title, he's fired. That your one job and you can't do it. That's what you're getting paid. We even had a comment on our channel saying, apparently you don't know anything, Ross. And I'm right, basically what it said. That he's going to get fired if he does win a national championship. And but here's the thing: Ohio State knows that, Ryan Day knows that, and the players are going to fight for the coach. They
Derek, let
created
me
a
ask you
bond.
something.
Here, first of all, they created a bond. They created a bond, and I really think Tennessee loses to Ohio State. Now, what were you going to say?
I was going to ask you if Texas is winning 10 games, maybe even 11. They're going 11-1 or 10-2, and they lose to Oklahoma or Texas A&M.
Depends.
Do you really want to get Sark out of there with a 10 or 11 win season for losing to Oklahoma or Texas A&M?
Well, it depends. Maybe Texas is not as uh, willing to fire the coach over that. Maybe Ohio State will, maybe Michigan will. You know,
OU and Texas
that's
is probably the second biggest rivalry in college sports, I'd say.
yeah. OU and Texas don't have fights and pulling flags off poles, okay?
Yeah, that was
And I promise you
ridiculous.
this. I promise you this. Yeah, they're trying to do that felony that's never going to pass. By the way, Texas
You
plays
know, now
Ohio
I'm just
State.
rooting for Ohio State to lose, man. I mean, geez.
Yeah,
I mean,
Texas plays Ohio State next year in the first game. You know what's going to happen if Texas beat Ohio State? Take that fight.
oh yeah, dude, Tennessee's gonna plant that thing in there if
No, I'm
they
talking
win.
about Texas. When Texas
Why are
plays
you talking
Ohio
about
State next,
Texas?
They play Ohio State next year.
We're not talking about next year, Derek.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying.
But I
They're
do
trying
think
to
that they
pass the
will win
felony law
next
here.
year. But so you're taking Ohio State in this. Oh man, this one's another tough one. I agree with you. I think weather's going to play a factor in this. It's going to be snowy. It is going to be cold. It's it's in Columbus. I mean, everything's going to be in Ohio State's favor. I just don't think Tennessee is going to have what it takes to go up there and beat them. So I'm going to take Ohio State as well in that. So we won't get to see if Ryan Day gets fired if he loses in the first round. Now, Derek, does he get fired if he loses in the second round to Oregon?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do believe that.
Um, then let's move to the next game real quick, and we'll probably need to speed it up just a little bit on some of these predictions. But who do you got for SMU and Penn State?
Okay. Penn State, I love you, but as I've said all year, you're overrated. SMU knows how to come back in games, and SMU wins this. SMU's offense is really good. I don't see Penn State doing it. They had a shootout with Oregon. Come on, what makes you think you'll beat SMU? It's not happening. SMU wins. I believe this 100%. And plus I want to see chaos with this game. It's SMU, and then we get the SMU Boise State, the two teams that were even in a Power Four, Power Five
Yep.
last year.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm taking SMU in this. I think Penn State, they're favored by 9. They're right by that double digit mark, like you were talking about earlier. And all 2 weeks, until this game, SMU is going to keep hearing about how great Big Ten is and Penn State, and even though Penn State hasn't beaten anybody relevant in the Big Ten, um, except for Illinois. Ooh, man.
mhm.
Anyway, um, they're a lot like Texas. They play easier teams, and somehow their conference always gives them the easy matchups in there. But anyway, I'm going to take SMU in this one as well. I think that Penn State's a little overrated, but we'll see. This is Penn State will have a couple games to prove it. I think they to prove that they are legit. I think that they need to beat both SMU and Boise, and I think that that would be enough to say, hey, we are legit. But let's go to the next game here. Indiana and Notre Dame. Derek, who you got?
Oh man, I really want to see. I want to see upset.
Yeah, I
I
know.
really do. I
Yep.
want Indiana to win, but I already made my upset. SMU, and which shouldn't be an upset because I think SMU is better than Penn State. That's just my take. But it is what it is. Because Penn State's in the Big Ten. But I do believe India loses this match to Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame has gotten a spark under them. I
Yep.
think they're going to win more than 7.5. And I think they're going to win by 14. So I got
Yep.
Notre Dame going against Georgia.
Yeah, I've got Notre Dame as well. I think that Notre Dame, they started out a little bit slow, but since then they've really looked the part. They've had any game that they've had under the lights that's gotten national attention, like Army and Navy, who were actually legit teams. Like they're not elite teams, but they were legit. Notre Dame came out focused. They came out prepared, and they took care of business. None of those games were close. I think that Notre Dame is looking legit. I think they look very balanced, and I think that they're a very legit program. Indiana is in a similar situation to Penn State, where they didn't really play anybody good in their conference except for one big game, which was Ohio State, which they got crushed in. So it would be really cool to see Indiana pull an upset, just to see a whole bunch of upsets in this thing because, sports. But I do think that Notre Dame is going to be uh, victorious in this one. And I'd say I'm similar to you, about 14 points, something like that, maybe even a little bit more. But I think about 2 to 3 scores in this one. I think Notre Dame. So, do you want to just stop here, or do you want to go to the next round? Do you want to go round by round all the way to the national championship?
Oh, we can do that. Let's do that.
Okay.
Let's see if we're right
So
later on.
so you've got Arizona State versus Texas. Let us know who you
Hmm.
think's going to win.
So here's the thing: Arizona State had a slow start. It was kind of concerning when they were being clobbered by Texas State and somehow pulling off the win because they found something. They won that. It could have been a loss. It wasn't. And all of a sudden, they started exploding through the Big 12 towards the end. Got some great losses here and there from teams that it practically went their way once they got in. They went on to beat Iowa State. And by the way, it wasn't BYU in the championship, it was Iowa State. I stand
Mm,
corrected here. Uh,
yeah.
they beat Iowa State, uh, and now they're in a vibe situation because SMU, well, had a great comeback, but couldn't get past Clemson. And now instead, Arizona State's in the bye. They're not playing Texas as I thought they were. I have a friend who went to Texas State and he rooted against his own team for Arizona State because he got his master's at Arizona State. And now I'm ready to talk crap to him when Texas gets there and just give him hell. But yeah, Texas wins that one.
All right. So I've got Clemson in here uh, after a crazy victory over the Longhorns. Everybody in the college football world is shocked. Um, Sark is now on the hot seat, about to get fired with Ryan Day. No, I'm just kidding. But
Really.
um,
They didn't lose four straight to Georgia.
they're on the road to it, buddy. So Arizona State and Clemson. I'm going to take Clemson again. I think Dabo is heating up, and I'm taking Clemson in this one over Arizona State. So let's go to the next one here. Ohio State and Oregon, the big rematch. Who you got, Derek?
I think the rematch happens. I really think Oregon wins. The one seed prevails because they had 3 weeks to study both Tennessee and Ohio State. I
Yep.
think that goes against them, and they beat Ohio State again. This time they're not going to get lucky. They're actually going to beat Ohio State without the luck in their hand. So
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, I think regardless if they play Tennessee or Ohio State, I think Oregon does win this one. I did pick Ohio State, so I think that Oregon will. Earlier in the season, I thought Ohio State was going to win the rematch. However, after the Michigan situation, I think a lot of people are on pause with Ohio State, and that's me included. I just don't trust Will Howard. I think that he is going to make some big mistakes that are really going to cost him the game, and I think that Dylan Gabriel is going to uh, make him pay for those mistakes, and Oregon is going to win again. So, next one here, we've both got SMU and Boise State. Derek, what
Wait,
happens?
this is going to be a high scoring offensive game because they
Mm-hmm.
ain't stopping Jimsy, and
Yeah,
Boise State ain't stopping SMU. It's going to come down possible overtime, but I think Boise State eventually wins out, especially if they go too far in overtime. They have to deal with um, with the 2 point conversions. I think handing off to Genty is going to be too hard for SMU to do anything. But then
mm-hmm.
again, you run in a 2 point conversion 3 yards away, you got a better chance of throwing it and winning it. So they could be going SMU. I think there could be a slip up by SMU. I think Boise State wins, and it's going to be a close game. So I got Boise State.
I got Boise State as well. I just I don't know. I think Boise State has a fire in them right now, and they want to prove to everybody that they should be there because there are a lot of haters on Boise State right now. A lot of people that are like, "Why?" Why is Boise State even in there? And I think that they're going to come out and they're going to come out with some fire, and I think that they're going to win their first round as well. So Georgia and Notre Dame.
Okay, this is where Notre Dame stopped. And Notre Dame will lose to Georgia. I think the defense is too strong, and I think Georgia just it should they win it. It said it is what it is. By the way, I during the Ohio State Oregon game, I do have Ohio State winning in my bracket challenge. I'm just gonna leave it as it is, so that way if they do win, I could say, "Ha ha, I was smart, baby." But no,
Yeah.
my true pick was Oregon. But no, Georgia, I think they move on.
Okay. I'm gonna take Georgia as well. I I think that Notre Dame is really good, but I just don't think they're ready for Georgia, and I think Georgia is focused. They are ready to go. That Texas game, it showed that their focus, and I don't know if Carson Beck being out is going to be that big of a hit to them. They have a very good overall team versus I don't think just one player. That their offense was not reliant on, you know, Beck. Like I just don't think that the quarterback situation was not elite enough for having a QB change to make that big of a difference in their offense, in my opinion. And so, because of that, I'm going to stick with Georgia here, and I'm going to have them move into the next round. So now we've got for you Texas and Oregon. Let's hear it, Derek.
This is going to be a game where everybody says, I don't know what I'm talking about. Oregon being the best team in college football. Well, they aren't. They clearly aren't. They're not going to get past Texas defense. That defense is going to shut Oregon down. And yeah, and I don't think Oregon has much of a defense to stop Texas. It's not happening. Texas beats Oregon, and they move on for a possible rematch. Maybe depends what I say.
All right. So for me, I'm going to put this out there. In this situation, I'm either going to have Clemson in here or Texas. I think both Clemson and Texas, whoever wins that one, will both probably beat Arizona State. So I'm going to say that in this situation, I think that what do you call it? Oregon will beat Clemson, but if Texas is the one that we're to get now, I'm not using this in my bracket, but I am putting this out there because I do think it's interesting. I think that if Texas were to beat Clemson, again, that's very possible that that happens. Uh, some would say very likely. So if Texas is the one against Clemson or against Oregon, I agree with you, Derek. I think that Texas's defense will stop Oregon. It will slow them down and it will hurt them. And I think that Texas is not the kind of matchup that Oregon wants to see. And I would have Texas going to the national championship in that case. However, since I picked them to lose in the first round, I'm going to take Oregon beating Clemson and Oregon now going to the national championship. So that leads us to Georgia and Boise State. Red versus blue. Who you
Uh,
got?
this
Is there
okay
any chance,
now.
Derek? Is there any chance?
Okay. I think there's no chance, but I think Beck could possibly be back for the semifinal match. They're not sure what UCL injury it is, what grade. If it's a grade one, it's a sprain. If it's grade two, it's a partial tear. If it's a grade three, it's a full tear. They're saying if it's a 2 or 3 grade, he's definitely out for the season. They're saying if it's a grade one, he could possibly be back in the semifinal or the national championship. Uh, Seeming that he did take the last snap in the Texas Georgia game. Uh, tells me it might be a sprain. It might not
Mm-hmm.
be a tear because he was there doing practice snaps and he wasn't really grinning as much. And I think if you have a tear, I know for a at least for my leg, I had a tear once. And, you would feel it, and I was grinning. So unless he was hiding it, I don't think he has a tear. I think he has a grade one, and I think I see him come back. But I do believe that Georgia does win and faces Texas for a third. And time's the charm for Texas to beat Georgia.
All right.
So there.
So for me in this one, man, wouldn't that be something if Boise State won? Um, but at the same time, if Boise State shocks Georgia, I think it's going to be easy for the whoever's waiting for them in the national championship to beat them. Uh, and it may be one of those TCU Georgia games. Uh, if were to make it. But I just can't do it. I'm going to be rooting for it hardcore because it'd be so cool to see. But I think that this is the end of Boise State's road. I think that they win one game and then they get knocked out in the next. Georgia's just too big of a beast. They're too balanced of a team on both sides of the field. Georgia's going to win, and they're going to the national championship to play Oregon or Texas if Texas were to get past Clemson. So let's pick the national championship game, Derek. Who you got?
I said it in my short. Said third time's a charm. First game, they got blown out at home. Second game, they took it to overtime. Third game, hook 'em. Give him the horns. You cannot deny Bevo to show up at the national championship game, and he's going to show Uga what's up. Texas for the win.
All right. So now that that's over with, um, when Georgia plays Oregon, I'm going to take Georgia in this one. Georgia will be the national championship team at the end of the day. They're just going to have too much defense for Oregon to handle. Um, again, I just don't think that offense wins championships. And whenever your team is defined by its offense, I just don't think that that's going to win a national championship. And I'm going to take the balanced Georgia team that is more of a defensive minded, defensive scheme type of team. So, Georgia. Now, I'm going to also just put this out there, this scenario out there. Again, I think that if Texas beats Clemson, Texas will go through that bracket fairly easily. And I think that the matchups favor Texas in that their side of the bracket if they get past Clemson. So this would be a Texas Georgia rematch for the third time. Oh my gosh. I
So be
really hope this
watched.
does not happen. I'm so tired of seeing this stupid game. They really need to do something to make sure that two times is the most times that a team plays each other. Uh, three times is just, it's getting ridiculous. I really
It's a
hope this
playoff.
scenario does not happen because if Texas beats Georgia in the national championship, but Georgia beat them 2 out of 3 times for the year, that is very unfair and ridiculous to crown Texas the champions with only having to win one of those games.
It
Um,
happened in the national championship of basketball. They
then
played
what's the
four
point of the
times.
other games?
What's the point of a basketball, college basketball, having three losses to a team, and that team all of a sudden comes out of nowhere
You
and
play
faces that team in the national championship? I'm saying it happens in basketball. Why can't it happen in football? You know, you got these subpar championship, SEC subpar championship, and then you got the real deal. What everybody wants. It's great to have the SEC title game, but how much do you want that national championship? That's where it matters. You could go all day. I won the SEC. I beat them the first match. But you know what? If Texas win, at least they can say, well, we won the national title. So, buddy,
well,
that's how it is. That's how the playoff
they'll
rolls.
earn it. It's whatever. But at the end of the day, I just hope that scenario doesn't happen. I'm tired of watching that game. I've seen Texas take 2 L's. I don't need to keep watching it. Um, just
Mhm.
let's see a different matchup. Hopefully that does not happen. Because if it does, there will be controversy. I'm telling you. Uh,
How's it controversy? It's how the playoff works. You win your
again,
game, you move on.
yeah.
Maybe
Well,
maybe the way the
there's less
bracket was
games in football.
maybe the way the bracket was made, and that will change. It might have controversy in that reason.
I really
But yeah.
wish that if anything, they would have just gotten it over with now. Just do it again.
Mhm.
But anyway, they're trying to hold it for the national championship. I really, and I don't think I'm alone in this. I really hope that that doesn't happen, because I think that that would just be another boring game. But anyway,
Another boring
my
game.
prediction
Overtime.
is Oregon and Georgia, and I will be taking Georgia. If a Texas Georgia play, I'm taking Georgia. I'm not doubting those dogs again. Georgia will win a third
Hmm.
time in a row. So, yeah,
Maybe that's why they
Georgia
lost,
will
because you
be your
jinxed them.
undisputed national championship team, and if they were to lose to Texas, oof, that's gonna be a big mess. But anyway, I guess we're gonna head out of here. Yeah, think that about does it. So
All
see you
right.
guys in the next segment. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you got this far, please consider hitting that like button and commenting down below with your thoughts. We'll see you guys in the next video.